Hello! Thanks you for visiting the Other Woman and Man Stories channel. Have you ever experienced such life stories? 3 months have passed since this story happened, and it still haunts me. I've decided to share it with you. My old school friend David called me and said he wanted to visit our hometown. He left here right after school to attend university in the big city, and he stayed there. Then his parents also moved there. Our communication was interrupted for a while, but with the advent of cell phones, we started talking again. And now he called me and said he wanted to come. I was thrilled at the prospect of seeing an old friend and invited him to stay with us. We live as a family of 3, me, my wife Jessica, and our 3-year-old daughter. At first, my wife was against it, but then she agreed to host our guest. At that time, we were living in a rented 3-bedroom apartment. To make it more convenient for everyone, we moved our daughter into our bedroom, and David was allocated a separate room. I decided to give my friend a warm welcome and booked a table at a cozy bar on the day of his arrival. I met him at the train station, and it was as if we had never been apart. We had so much to talk about. We couldn't stop talking from the moment we met, about life, interests, and passions. Over the 12 years, we had accumulated so many stories to discuss. We sent our daughter to my parents because we planned to spend a long time at the bar. Since our daughter came along, my wife and I rarely went out anywhere. The evening went wonderfully. David hadn't lost his cheerful personality over the years. He shared many interesting stories. He told us that he had recently gotten married for the 2nd time after an unsuccessful first marriage. The evening flew by in an instant. My wife and I laughed at his stories and jokes all evening. We didn't even notice how time flew by, but we did have quite a few drinks. Our rare habit of drinking had its effects on us. We were drunk. Well, I was a bit more than the others. David had to escort us out of the bar and call a taxi to take us home. He had a hard time getting us home. I barely remember how we went to sleep. I only remember falling a few times, and I also remember David pushing away the beddings, saying he might not sleep at all tonight, while my wife tried to make a bed for him on the couch. In the morning, I woke up. I felt terrible, and my wife was still sleeping, just like David. I thought I needed to buy beer because I had a terrible headache. Overcoming myself, I went to the store. I returned home, and they were still sleeping. I started waking them up. They woke up, we had some beer, and everyone felt much better. Then we went for a walk around the town. David was the life of the company. We visited the part of the city where we spent our childhood, looked at our favorite places, and his old house. The next day, I had to go to work. After all, it was Monday. David planned to explore the city on his own. I gave Jessica instructions to help him if needed and went to work. I work in a small company, constantly busy with tasks. Fortunately, the salary is good. The week was very hectic. Reports, meetings, and negotiations. So many things to do. I simply didn't have time, so I left David without my attention and support. In the evening, we gathered again, talked, but during the day, I couldn't go anywhere with him. I was occupied, and so the week went by. On Friday, he had to leave. I promised to drive him to the train station, or at least come home, and say goodbye before his departure. In the morning, I dropped off my daughter at daycare and went to work earlier to have enough time to take my friend. I had a lot of work to do, and I needed to finish everything quickly. David called at 11 in the morning and said he was ready and waiting outside, but I had a pile of tasks. He suggested calling a taxi, but I wanted to personally see him off. I said, "No, I'll come for sure by 12. Wait for me." And I grabbed my head. An urgent report was expected from me. Luckily, my colleague, a wonderful girl, came to my aid. After learning the reason I needed to leave, she took all the papers and said she would handle the report. I rushed out of the office, jumped into the car right away, and hurried home. As a result, I arrived half an hour earlier. I climbed the stairs and entered the apartment. Next to the couch in the living room, there was a packed bag, but on the couch, with pants pulled down, David sat, looking at the ceiling with rolled back eyes, seemingly in ecstasy. Because my wife Jessica, completely naked, was on her knees pleasuring him with her mouth. What happened next, I can hardly remember. At that moment, everything was blurry before my eyes. I remember the wild rage that engulfed me. I remember grabbing the first thing I found in the hallway. It was my father-in-law's thin wooden cane. The lovers were consumed by their act. I approached them unnoticed. The first blow landed on my wife. She was hit on the head with the cane. She screamed and recoiled. From what I understood, after the impact, she clenched her teeth and bit the lover hard. He jumped up in pain, screaming and running around the room with his pants down, trying to find an exit. Several times, I struck my cheating wife on her ass with the cane before shifting my attention to her lover. It was clear that the bite from my wife was excruciatingly painful, but at that moment, I simply couldn't stop myself. I was consumed by fury, striking with the cane wherever I could reach. My wife cried and wept, and it was unclear to me what she was trying to express through her wails, whether it was just pain, or pleading for forgiveness, or blaming him. But it didn't matter. They were both guilty, both betrayers. David tried to shield himself from the cane blows, screaming and trying to explain something to me, blaming my wife for everything that happened. But it didn't matter to me. I had seen enough. Finally, when I drove him out to the hallway with the cane strikes, I simply grabbed him by the collar and rudely threw him into the stairwell with his pants still down. Following that, I tossed his bag right onto him. While I dealt with my former friend, my wife had managed to make her way to the bedroom and get dressed. I had a strong desire to kill her, but I restrained myself. Gathering all my strength, I asked her why she had done this to me. At first, she tried to scream and reproach me for something. However, eventually, she told me how it all happened. It all began on the day David arrived. We got drunk and returned home. I fell asleep quickly. She made the guest's bed. Then she decided to lie down for a moment. He began undressing her while she was lying there. She couldn't understand why she didn't resist. She allowed him to undress her, and then it all happened in a drunken haze. The next morning, they pretended as if nothing had happened. We spent the whole day walking around the city. But on Monday, when I went to work, they discussed what had happened during the night, which led to them ending up in bed together once again. And so the entire week went by. While I was at work, he wasn't exploring the city, but rather entertaining himself with my wife. After hearing all this, I was speechless. I simply looked at her with a cold, wrathful gaze. She realized that it wouldn't end peacefully and gathered her belongings, leaving to stay with her parents. Our daughter is currently living with her. As for me, I initially consulted with lawyers to ensure custody of my daughter after the divorce. Unfortunately, since she is only 3 years old, it's likely she will be left with her mother. That's how in one instant I lost an old friend, my spouse and daughter. How everything that was built over the years can be lost in a single moment. My loving wife became a stranger and a repulsive person to me. For now, I haven't filed for divorce. We're living separately. But I will definitely proceed with the divorce. It's just not the most suitable time at the moment. I want to take custody of my daughter because she's all I have left. I don't want my beloved daughter to grow up and become like her mother, who won't teach her anything good. Moreover, I have suspicions that she will turn my daughter against me. Please don't accuse me of wanting to deprive my daughter of her mother. She will grow up and eventually understand everything on her own. That's the story of life. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and have a wonderful day.